Hey guys, and welcome back to PXH, also known as PureXHeart. Chris here, as usual, this time, again, back with another album review. And guys, before we get started, make sure you guys hit down that like button, and also comment down below what you guys thought about this album, and also what you guys want me to review, or even talk about. And speaking of talking about, if you guys want to hear me say some other, type of things that isn't really album review related, or even reacting to related, then go check out the PureXHeart Podcast. More on that a little bit later. And also, if you guys are new here or returning visitor and you guys haven't yet hit that subscribe button, then what do you guys do and hit that subscribe button? It really helps out this channel. I know I always say this, but it really helps out, of course. And also hit that notify bell so you guys can be notified whenever videos get popped up here on PXH. And speaking of which, let's get into it. So Get Out of the Way of Your Own Heart is the latest album by Chris Renzema. I think that's how you say that name. I don't really know. So this is either his third or second album, depending on how you feel about that type of, I think it is his third album, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, it's his latest album that has been released. His former album, his former album that was released was Let the Ground Rest, which was I reviewed that here on PXH, and you guys can go check out that album. It's been a year since that album got released, and then this album is being released, so it's a year gap. And for a lot of people, it's kind of weird just to have an album back to back. I'm used to it just because it's like I'm used to worship music just being like that. So it's kind of weird if a worship album is not released from back to back years. Going into this album, I was actually really excited. I love Chris Renzema. He is amazing. He is one of my favorite artists right now in the whole Christian music era, and actually probably one of my favorite artists that's actually out there. The reason why is because he's been one of those few artists where he's able to crack this balance between an indie Christian where they put out really good songs that are really enjoyable and actually make you think, but also a good CCM artist where if you hear on the radio, it's not that out of the blue because he's a really good artist. And so he's able to max that fine line between radio and indie, which is amazing. So mainstream and indie. So it's really good that he's able to find that sweet little balance in there. I really like this album. So I've been trying to find something to say about this album. The thing is, I really enjoy this album. This has basically almost everything that I really do enjoy about an album. It's not really an album that tells a story necessarily. It tells somewhat of a story, but the story is not really important. But it's not an album that feels like it's a collection of songs. It's an album that has a purpose. The thing about this album is that the title of this album has been really hard for me to wrap my head around, just because it doesn't really feel like Get Out of the Way of Your Own Heart. It feels like with the first track, with Hope or Nostalgia, it sometimes feels like, sure, it kind of feels like Get Out of the Way of Your Own Heart with some things, but I felt like with this album, I felt more of the first track. Am I trying to go for more hope, or am I trying to go for the way that things were used to be? That's the thing. Am I trying to hope for a better future, or am I wanting everything to go back better as it was in the past? So, and speaking of Hope or Nostalgia, you guys can go actually check them out on tour. It's called Hope or Nostalgia Tour. Not a sponsor, but I'm just saying. He's probably really good. Anyway, boy, this album, as I'm kind of a little bit rambling, just a little bit, but it's normal here. I want to talk a little bit all about this album, but I can't really talk all about this album just because there's just a lot of things that for this album, it's just kind of hit home a little bit and had a more of a reflecting that I've yet to have my mind to really focus and to really think about what this album kind of feels like or what it kind of is. I don't really know. And I don't think I'm really supposed to know right about now. I mean, it'd be kind of helpful for this review, but there's just some albums that you just think of, and then your mind is just kind of wrapped around, and it just kind of gets transformed just a little bit. And that's not all necessarily a bad thing. It's sometimes a really, really good thing. And that's what this kind of album actually has done for me just a little bit, where it has me asking the same question, where, to actually talk about this album title, am I really having my heart, dictate for what I want stuff to go? Some of my favorite songs off this album have been Hope and Nostalgia. I like the title track for this album, which is called Get Out of the Way of Your Own Heart. Just as good, and No Room for an Anxious Heart. Just as Good, which is featuring Ellie Holcomb. Fantastic singer. Those two songs remind me, no matter how bad we are, no matter how bad everything gets, Christ is still just as good. I really love of just how this album is able to kind of focus more directly onto Christ, whereas I feel like Let the Ground Rest wasn't really about that, having this rest and not being so anxious about life all that time, whereas Get Out of the Way of Your Own Heart is more like there's something better that is out there, which I love of how kind of all these songs are kind of turning towards Christ and to God and that aspect, and of how that this, because sometimes with Chris Renzema with his songs, it doesn't seem like overly Christian, which is not necessarily a bad thing. However, for some people it's just like, well, is she really a Christian? Well, it's... I've talked about that multiple times, but I feel like that this album kind of really states that, whereas it's like, yes, I am a Christian. I just don't be overly obnoxious about that. I'm not saying that, if you're saying that you're overly, like, if you're a Christian, that people are not gonna like that. I'm just saying for some people, it doesn't work like that. And neither way is a bad thing in some aspects, as long as you're able to find a balance. I've been listening to these songs like on repeat. I think I've listened to this album 4 or 5 times, and every time I've not grown sick of any songs, which is important for listening to an album. Because sometimes I listen to some of these albums, I'm just like, by the second listen through, I just don't like it at all. Or, first listen through, I love it. Second listen through, it's just all right. Third, it just goes down, 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 down. With this album, I love every song. All the music-wise is very pleasant to my ears. It has a very nice folk, but also what I love, 80s type of new wave music, which is really, really enjoyable. And then not all of the songs feel like that they're slow. A lot of them feeling really good. And a little bit what I love is indie mixed with a little bit of worship music. I love that. I love it whenever an indie artist is kind of has like a few worship songs, or it could be, this could be in the church. Just as good as what I was saying could be one of them. Stronger Love could definitely be one of them. Even the last song, Blessed Are Those Who Follow You, which is basically about the Beatitude. I love that. I just love a little bit of how everything just for this album has just kind of been like really good. It starts off really, really great, starts off kind of slow, but it just builds, and then it just ends off with just a nice little, I know, and probably some of the tracks could just probably be, placed in different ways, but I don't mind it. I've got out what I wanted to from this album. I really enjoy this album. There's not really a bad thing to really say about this album. I don't really have anything bad. I really enjoy it. I enjoy it way better than Let the Ground Rest. That's why Get Out of the Way of Your Own Heart definitely deserves a praise hands. Whew. I really enjoyed those praise hands. Man, you don't realize. I enjoy giving these albums praise hands. Yes! Get Out of the Way of Your Own Heart is definitely a important listen to, especially just if you guys just like this type of music. Chris Renzema is a fantastic artist that you guys definitely need to listen to. If you guys have not listened to them, then what are you guys doing? Listen to him. He's really great. So, again, there's that. There's not really much to say else about this album other than just go ahead and listen to it. It's great. With that, if you guys would leave a like onto this video and also comment down below what you guys thought about this album, and also go check out the podcast. It's really enjoyable. I enjoy it. My co-host Jesse enjoys it. Everybody else that we heard from really enjoys that podcast. So go listen to it. It's really great. It's just basically two Christian nerds just talking about just everything in Christianity, and we're also talking about music and movies and all that fun, other type of fun stuff, and topics, obviously, and just nerd stuff. But also, if you're new here or return visitor and you haven't yet subscribed, then what are you guys doing? Hit that subscribe button. It really helps out this channel. And also hit that notify bell if you guys would. If anything else, then go with Jesus and change the culture. Boom. Bye.